I'm so tired. I need to fall asleep, but I couldn't fall asleep for some reason.
Yeah.
I think that happens when your body like can't fully relax or something.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think you're just too keyed up, too stressed out. Like your body's running on
Yeah.
cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's definitely the case. Yeah, I've been there. When I'm driving, I'll do 12 hours, and that's about my
Oh.
max.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and that's if
I
I'm
could do that.
splitting
I
it
could do
with
that.
like if I'm
Starting in
splitting
the
it with
day
another
too.
person too.
Yeah.
It gives you a chance to like stop every like 4 hours, and
Mm-hmm.
you start at like 6 a.m. in the morning, you end around 6 7 p.m. at night. That's time
Mm-hmm.
enough to find a hotel for a night, and then you have at least a couple hours just to relax and decompress before you get back on the road the next day. So
Yeah.
that's normally the way I do it. Otherwise, if I do like a straight through all night, then I'm just dead, for a couple
Yeah,
days.
you can't.
So
So, so what ultimately made you decide to write a book? And can you quickly tell everybody what your book is all about?
sure, yeah. So the book is it's called Reawakening the Warrior Spirit and exploring what it means to be a warrior in the modern West. And what I mean by that is that I'm discussing these timeless warrior truths, these warrior virtues that you were taught, that I was taught in training, and I'm trying to place them within a modern context. I think that, as they say, there's that old phrase that the warriors have remained the same throughout the ages, but the battlefield certainly looks different, right? The battlefield changes,
Mm,
warriors don't necessarily change. And so I kind of lay out, kind of what we're experiencing in our modern culture is a lot of division, a lot of anger. People have called it a culture war that we're experiencing, and people take different sides. And it's when I started writing, it was in the middle of COVID, and we certainly saw the division
uh,
and the anger and the hatred kind of peaking during that time for a number of reasons, not least because we're all locked in our homes and we're going out of our minds, right? And so I remember during that time, speaking of not being able to
yeah,
sleep, I couldn't sleep because I was too keyed up. I
yeah.
kept going through stuff in my head, the stuff I saw on the news, whatever. And the only way I could actually get to sleep was to grab my journal and just start writing and write out everything that was on my head.
That's
And
good.
then I could sleep. And
Yeah.
so my wife, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she picked it up one day and like started reading some of my ramblings. I was like, "This is really good. Have you ever thought about
Oh
writing a
wow.
book?" And so I explored that idea for a while. I didn't think it was at first. I didn't think it was a good idea because I never thought I would be an author. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but
That's how
sometimes
some
people
of the
believe in
best
you.
that's how some of the best books are
Yeah.
written.
So I just started, putting stuff together slowly over time and putting my thoughts on paper, and it evolved, and that's how the book was written. And so what it's about is it addresses kind of where we are. Like I said, kind of the problem is our current situation, a few bad ideas that I identify in our modern culture, and then the solution is these four warrior virtues that I talked through. The first being
Mm.
service, the service mentality, servant leader mentality, and how we apply that in our modern culture. The second is truth. What does it mean to live an honest life? What does it mean to be a truthful person?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a pretty basic question, but it's actually not an idea of like asking what is truth. That's a rather complicated question. Uh,
Yeah.
the third is I call that title "Embrace a Life Full of Strength and Power." The fourth
Mm.
is the fourth virtue is fortitude, and I call that chapter "Face Your Adversary with Your Face Forward." Rather than running away, you want to face them with their face forward. And then the final
Mm.
chapter of the book I call Pray for Peace, but Prepare for War. And that is where I try to put some meat on the bones of these virtues that I've talked about, kind of the philosophical principles that I've developed, with some practical things that you can do in your daily life in order to develop those virtues in your life. The idea being that the question is not if a storm will come in my life, but rather
Mm.
right? There's always going to be storm. And what determines whether or not you weather the storm is not you rising to the occasion when the storm comes. It's how you've prepared yourself prior to the storm arriving. And so that's why, like, yes, we can all pray for peace, for peaceful lives, for a peaceful existence. We all do that. But you sure as hell better prepare for war. And that is the best way that you can actually live a peaceful existence, is if you're prepared for those hard times when they come.